Hello friends, welcome to Shadow Whisperer. All you see is darkness, just the sound of rain. Designed to help you relax, focus on the story, and drift into sleep. But before you do, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And yes, feel free to share where you're listening from in the comments. Now, let's begin. Alex and I had been dreaming for a long time. 5 years we'd been together. We wanted something truly special, something big, not just a fancy dinner, not a quiet weekend away. We needed a real adventure. Our city life was too fast, too many emails, too many meetings. We felt like we were always running, always looking at screens. We wanted to unplug, to really breathe, to remember what it was like to just be, just us. We picked a place called Cape Chinecto. It was way up in Nova Scotia, a wild part of Canada. It had tall, jagged cliffs. They dropped straight down into the sea, and hidden beaches, little secret coves. The ocean there was tricky. It changed its mind fast, very fast. 1 minute calm, the next big waves. It was known for that, its wild, untamed nature. That's what drew us in. We weren't new to adventures, not really. Alex knew the sea like it was a friend. She was a marine biologist. That means she studied ocean life. She knew all about the ocean's moods, its hidden dangers, its beautiful secrets. She could tell you about the tiny creatures, the ones that lived deep down, or the big fish that swam far out. Her eyes would sparkle when she talked about them. She loved the ocean so much. And me, I'd climbed mountains in college. I was part of a climbing club. I knew about ropes and harnesses, about trusting your grip and trusting your partner. I liked the feeling of the wind on my face. I liked the quiet of high places. So we felt ready for anything. We felt strong. We felt brave. We had faced challenges before. We thought we knew what we were doing. Our backpacks were heavy. They were full of climbing gear, long, thick ropes, shiny metal clips. They were called carabiners, a small, bright tent. It was light but strong, easy to set up, a first aid kit just in case, and enough food to last us 10 whole days. Dried fruit, nuts, small packets of noodles, things that wouldn't go bad, things that were easy to carry. This is our chance to unplug, Alex said. Her face was lit up with excitement. The morning sun caught her hair. It made it shine. She zipped up a waterproof bag. It kept everything inside dry. Her eyes sparkled. They always did when she was excited. She looked so happy, so full of hope. It made my heart feel warm, just looking at her. I nodded, my heart feeling light and hopeful. I double-checked our climbing ropes one last time, made sure they were coiled neatly, no tangles, ready to go, no emails, no screens, no city noise, just us, and the big raw edge of the world. It felt good, it felt right, like we were finally doing what we were meant to do, like we were truly free. The path to the trailhead smelled like salt. It was thick in the air. You could taste it on your tongue. Big waves crashed far below. You could hear them even from here, a deep, rumbling sound. It was like the earth was breathing, a slow, powerful breath. The cliffs stood tall. They looked jagged against a slate-gray sky, like giant teeth, or old, wise giants watching us. At the park office, a lady with wind-burned cheeks greeted us. Her face looked like it had seen many storms. Her skin was a bit rough. Her eyes were kind, but serious. She handed us a paper. It was a tide chart. It showed when the ocean water would go up and down, hour by hour. She pointed to some numbers. Her finger was rough. The tides shift fast here, she warned. Her voice was quick. It was clipped, like she didn't have much time, or like she'd said these words 1,000 times before. Get caught on the beach at high tide, and you're done. Stick to the cliffs if you're unsure. She looked at us. Her eyes were serious. They looked right into mine. I tucked the chart into my pocket. It felt like a heavy stone. Her words felt heavy too, like big, cold rocks. We had studied the tides. We had planned our path carefully. But the ocean's power felt humbling. It made us feel small, very small, like we were just tiny specks in a very big, very wild place. Her warning stayed with me. The first 2 days were pure magic, the kind of magic you read about in books. We hiked along the cliff trails. The sun was warm on our faces. It felt so good. The ocean roared below us. It sounded like a giant breathing, a powerful, endless breath. Gulls wheeled overhead. Their calls were loud in the wind, like they were laughing. They seemed to be welcoming us to this wild place. The air was so fresh, so clean. It filled our lungs. It felt like we were truly alive. Every moment was a gift. Alex would stop often. She'd point out tidal pools. They were little pools of water left by the ocean. They looked like tiny worlds. They were full of life. Bright starfish, busy crabs scurrying sideways, tiny fish darting in the shallow water. She'd explain each one, her voice full of wonder. She knew their names. She knew how they lived. I loved watching her. Her passion for the ocean was so real. It made me love it too. Even the smallest snail was a marvel to her. She would kneel down, her face close to the water, her eyes shining. She'd tell me about how the starfish ate, or how the crabs found their homes. It was amazing. We'd race to set up camp each evening. We laughed so hard. Our muscles were tired but happy. We fumbled with tent stakes in the wind. The tent fabric flapped around us. It was a happy struggle, a silly dance. The sun would set in a blaze of colors, orange, pink, purple. It painted the sky. It was so beautiful. At night, we lay close. Inside our sleeping bags, we looked up at the stars. They were so bright, 1,000,000 tiny lights, like diamonds scattered on black velvet. We shared stories of our childhoods, funny things, embarrassing things, sad things, things we hadn't talked about in years. It felt good to share, to be so open. We talked about dreams of sailing the world someday. Just us on a small boat, no schedule. Maybe even starting a small coastal cafe. Serving coffee and fresh bread, looking out at the waves, watching the sun rise and set. It sounded perfect. A simple, happy life. Just us and the ocean. The world felt so vast, so open, so full of possibilities, like it was ours for the taking. We felt so close, so connected. Every moment was perfect. We just breathed it all in. The cold night air, the smell of pine, the quiet hum of the wilderness. It was like the world was holding its breath with us. Everything felt right. Everything felt peaceful. On the third morning, the air felt different. It was heavier, thicker, like a blanket had been thrown over the world. The sky looked bruised, full of dark, heavy clouds. They hung low, threatening. They seemed to press down on us. The usual bright blue was gone, replaced by a dull, sickly gray. It made my stomach feel a little tight. As I packed our gear, I noticed something odd. Scratches on a nearby tree. They were high up, higher than a deer could reach, and very deep, like something strong had clawed its way up the bark. My eyes followed the marks. They looked strong and fresh. The wood underneath was still light, not weathered, like they had just been made. It was strange. "Could be a bobcat," Alex said. She squinted at the marks. Her brow was furrowed. A little line appeared between her eyebrows. She looked thoughtful. Or just old damage from a bad storm. Her tone was calm. Too calm. Like she was trying to convince herself, or me, that it was nothing. But her eyes lingered on the tree. She looked worried. Just for a second. A flicker of doubt. We'd seen wildlife before. Deer, little foxes. Nothing like this. This felt different. It felt like a warning, carved right into the bark, for us to see. A message left behind by something big, something powerful. I shrugged it off. I tried to make my shoulders feel loose. I didn't want to dampen our mood, not yet, not when we were having such a good time. "Let's keep moving," I said. I slung my pack over my shoulder. I tried to sound brave, but a little shiver went down my spine. It was a cold feeling. That day, the trail felt quieter, too quiet. The usual sounds of birds seemed to be gone, no chirping, no singing, just the crunch of our boots on the path. The wind carried a faint, unfamiliar rustle. It wasn't the sound of leaves. It was something else, something soft and strange, like something moving just out of sight. It sounded like a whisper, or a drag, very faint, but it was there, just at the edge of hearing. It made the hair on my arms stand up. We sang old sea shanties to keep our spirits up. Our voices echoed a little too much. Alex's voice was strong and clear, but I couldn't shake the sense that the forest was listening. Every single step we took, every word we spoke, like it was waiting, watching us. From behind the thick trees, it felt like we were being followed. By evening, we set up camp near a small cove. The tide was low. The beach was a maze of wet, slick rocks. They shone in the dim light, like black glass. They looked like hungry teeth, waiting for the ocean to come back. We cooked dinner over a portable stove. The smell of our warm food filled the air. It was comforting. The noodles steamed. The broth smelled good. It was a familiar smell, a safe smell. But even that couldn't fully calm the strange feeling. Alex paused. Her spoon was halfway to her mouth. She looked up, her eyes wide. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking into the trees. "Do you feel that?" she asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Like something's out there?" Her eyes were fixed on the darkness. I forced a grin. My cheeks felt stiff. I stirred the pot. "Probably just a curious seagull," I said, "trying to steal our dinner." I tried to sound light. She smiled back, but it didn't reach her eyes. Her eyes stayed worried. They were fixed on the darkness beyond our small fire. The flames danced, but they didn't seem to scare away the feeling. The air felt heavy around us. The quiet felt too loud. I kept looking over my shoulder, into the dark trees. The feeling of being watched grew stronger. It was like a cold hand on my neck. The shadows seemed to stretch and move, like they were reaching for us. The trees looked like twisted arms, their branches like bony fingers. The darkness felt alive. It felt like it was pressing in, closer and closer. The next night the storm hit. It came fast, like a wild beast. The sky opened up. The wind howled. It tore at our tent. It sounded like a wild animal. Rain lashed the cliffs. It hit the tent fabric like tiny stones, hard and fast. The sound was deafening. It was like the world was falling apart. We huddled inside, close together, our knees touching. The fabric shook. It sounded like it might rip apart any second. Every gust of wind made the poles bend. I thought they would snap. The lightning flashed. It lit up the inside of the tent for a second. Then it was dark again. The thunder boomed right after. Then we heard it, a low, eerie wail. It wasn't the wind. It was something alive, something close. It rose and fell, like a mournful cry. My heart pounded, like a drum in my chest. So loud I thought Alex could hear it. It was a sound I had never heard before, and I never wanted to hear it again. It was long and drawn out, full of sadness, but also something else, something hungry, something wild. It sent a chill right through me. I grabbed our flashlight. My hands were shaking. Its beam was swallowed by the pouring rain. It was like the light couldn't fight the darkness. It just disappeared. "What was that?" Alex whispered. Her voice was tight with fear. Her hand gripped my arm. Her fingers dug in. I shook my head. I gripped the multi-tool in my pocket. It had a small knife, my only weapon. "Maybe a fox. Stay here." I unzipped the tent a little. Just a crack. I peered into the chaos. Nothing but rain and shadows, dark, moving shapes, trees swaying wildly. I zipped it back up fast. My breath hitched. My heart was still pounding. I felt so helpless, so small. Sleep was impossible after that. The wail echoed in my mind, over and over. It sounded like a cry, a lonely cry, or maybe a hungry cry. I didn't know, but it filled me with dread. Every creak of the tent, every gust of wind made me jump. I just lay there, listening, waiting for it to come back. Alex was quiet beside me. I could feel her shaking a little. We didn't talk. There was nothing to say, just the sound of the storm and the memory of that wail. It felt like the night would never end. Each minute stretched out, long and cold. I wished for the sun to rise, to bring some light, some safety. By day 5, the storm had passed, but the trails were slick with mud, thick, brown mud. Every step was a slide. It pulled at our boots. It made walking hard. We decided to climb a low cliff. It was better than a flooded path. Our ropes were taut. Our metal clips glinted in the weak sun. They looked like tiny stars. Halfway up, I noticed more scratches on the rock. They were fresh, and deep, deeper than the ones on the tree. My fingers traced the gouges. They felt sharp, like new wounds carved into the stone. They were long and powerful, like something had dragged its claws down the hard rock. It wasn't a small animal. "This isn't right," I muttered. My voice was low. Alex nodded. Her face was pale. She looked at the scratches, then at me. Her eyes held fear, a quiet, steady fear. "Let's move faster," she said. Her voice was strained. We climbed in silence. The ocean's roar was below us, a constant reminder of its power. The scratches were a silent threat above. They seemed to follow us up the rock, like a path laid out for something else, something that had been here before us. The air felt heavy, even though the storm was gone. A strange stillness. Every shadow seemed to hide something. I kept looking around. My skin felt tingly, like someone was watching our every move, every breath. The forest was too quiet again. No birds, no rustling leaves, just the sound of our climbing gear and our own breathing. It felt like the world was holding its breath, waiting for something, and we were caught in the middle. We were the ones being watched. On the 6th night, it happened. We were camped on a high ledge. The sea was churning far below. It looked like a dark, angry monster. Its waves crashed against the rocks. I woke to Alex's shout. Her voice was sharp, full of panic. "Get up!" she yelled. I scrambled up. My headlamp caught a flash of fur. It was huge. A lynx, massive. Its eyes glowed in the light, like two hot coals, burning bright. They were fixed on us, full of a terrible hunger. It was crouched at the edge of our camp. It had torn into our food pack. We had secured it in a crevice. We thought it was safe. Its growl was low, primal. It sounded like it came from deep inside the earth. A hungry, angry sound. It lunged toward Alex. "Stay back!" I shouted. My voice cracked. It sounded thin. I grabbed a flare from our kit. My hands were shaking. I pulled the trigger. I fired it into the air. The red light burst above us. It lit up the night sky, a brief, fiery sun. It cast long, dancing shadows. The lynx froze, startled by the sudden light, but it didn't retreat, not fully. Alex swung her climbing axe. The blade grazed its flank. A sickening sound. It snarled. It swiped at her. Its claws caught her leg. Blood bloomed, dark against her pants. My heart leaped into my throat. A cold dread washed over me. Alex cried out, a small, sharp sound of pain. It was a sound I never wanted to hear. It made my blood run cold. I dove forward. I waved the flare. Its heat scorched my hand. The lynx backed off, hissing. Its fur bristled, but its eyes stayed locked on us, full of hunger and wild fury. It circled slowly. Its movements were quiet, like a ghost. It was still watching, still waiting. It wanted our food, or maybe more. It was so close, too close. "We need to go," I said. My voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. I helped Alex up. Her face was tight with pain. Her jaw was clenched. Blood was soaking her leg. I bandaged it quickly, my hands still shaking, trying to be fast. I used the first aid kit. The gauze felt rough, but it was all we had. Then I slung her arm over my shoulder. Her weight was heavy against me, so heavy. We stumbled down the trail. The lynx's growls got softer, fainter, but they never truly went away. They echoed in my mind, a constant threat. I could still feel its eyes on my back, even in the dark. The tide was rising. It was cutting off the beach path. The water was rushing in. It looked like a fast, dark river. We had to climb higher. My muscles burned. Every step was agony. My lungs ached. I half-carried Alex. Her breathing was ragged. Her weight pressed against me. She leaned on me heavily. I kept talking to her. "Just a little more, Alex," I whispered. "We're almost there." She just nodded. Her face was pale, but her eyes were still strong, still fighting, still with me. She didn't complain, not once. She just kept moving, one painful step after another. She was so brave, so much braver than me. The fog rolled in. It made everything hazy. Every tree looked like a ghost. Every sound was muffled. I felt like we were in a dream, a bad dream. That wouldn't end. The air grew colder, damp. It wrapped around us, like a wet, cold blanket. I couldn't see anything clearly, just blurry shapes, and the path ahead. Hours later, we saw it. A faint glow through the fog, a tiny light. It was the ranger outpost. Hope surged through me, a hot, bright feeling. It gave me new strength. I shouted for help. My voice was hoarse, raw. I kept shouting, over and over, until I couldn't anymore. 2 rangers ran out, their faces worried. One was a medic. He knelt beside Alex. He worked fast. He cleaned and stitched the wound. His hands were steady, so calm, so sure. He knew what he was doing. He spoke in a quiet voice. It was comforting. "They've lost some blood," he said. His voice was calm. "But they'll make it." The other ranger was a wildlife expert. He scanned the cliffs, his eyes sharp, looking for something, looking for the lynx. "That lynx was likely starving," he said. "Unusual for it to come this close, especially to people." He sounded sad, like he understood the animal. They radioed for a boat, to take us to a hospital. I held Alex's hand. Her grip was weak, but it was there. It was alive. A small, warm comfort. "You scared me so much," I whispered. My voice was thick with emotion. She managed a faint smile, her eyes tired, but a little spark returned. "Couldn't let you have all the adventure," she said softly. Her voice was weak, but her spirit was clear. She was still Alex, still my Alex. The boat arrived. The ride was bumpy, but it felt safe. So safe. The waves rocked us gently. The hospital was bright and warm. Alex got good care. I stayed by her side every minute, holding her hand, watching her breathe. I didn't want to leave her, not even for a second. I just wanted her to be okay. The rangers later found the lynx. It was very thin, emaciated, desperate. They moved it deeper into the wild, where it could find food, far away from people. They said it was probably just trying to survive, just like us. It was a sad thought, a wild creature driven by hunger. Alex recovered. Her leg had a scar, a long, thin line, a reminder, but her spirit was unbroken. She was still Alex, my strong, brave Alex. We don't talk about Cape Chignecto much. Not the scary parts, not the wail, not the glowing eyes, not the feeling of being watched. But when we do, it's with a quiet respect. The cliffs, the sea, the wild, they're beautiful, so beautiful. But they demand everything you've got, every ounce of strength, every bit of courage, and they remind you how fragile life is, how easily it can slip away, how quickly things can change, even when you're holding on tight. It was a lesson we would never forget. A part of us stayed on those wild cliffs, a part of our fear, and a part of that wildness came home with us. The fear, the strength, the deep, deep love we found in the storm. It changed us, made us stronger. Together, we learned to trust each other even more, to lean on each other, to appreciate every quiet moment, every safe breath. We saw what we were made of. I was just 13 years old when everything changed. That's how old I was when my parents packed us up. We moved us to a place called Crosswind Orchard. It was way up north in Vermont, a really old apple farm. It felt like the end of the world to me. My mom and dad bought it from a sale, like when someone dies and their stuff gets sold. Everything felt used up. The whole place looked pretty beat up. The land was all wild and overgrown. It looked like nobody cared. The old barn was half collapsed. It was leaning over like it was tired, like it was ready to fall down. And the house itself, it looked like nobody had cleaned it since forever. Dust was everywhere. It smelled old and forgotten. But we had to get away, my parents said. My dad had just lost his job back in Boston. It was a really hard time for him. He walked around with his shoulders slumped. He looked at the ground a lot. He didn't laugh much anymore. And my mom, she kept saying she needed space to heal. I didn't really get what that meant then. I just knew she cried a lot. Her eyes were often red and puffy. She'd go into her room and close the door. It felt like a big secret. At first, I hated it so much. There were no kids my age around, no Wi-Fi, so no games or videos, and no pizza delivery, which was a real bummer. It was just me, a bunch of trees, and some squirrels. I felt totally alone. The silence was the worst part. It was so quiet during the day, the kind of quiet that makes your ears ring. It pressed down on everything. It felt heavy, like a thick blanket. There was nothing to fill it. But then, at night, that silence got really loud. Every little creak, every rustle outside. It all sounded huge in the dark. It made me feel small, like I was just a tiny dot in a giant, silent world. And I was scared of it. The only building that was still standing near the back of the apple trees was this small shed. It had a door that was all crooked. It hung funny on its hinges. There was this old, rusted hook latch on it. It looked like it hadn't been opened in years. My dad said the person who lived there before used it to store barrels of apple cider. He said it was nothing to worry about. But every single time I walked by it, I felt something. It was always on my way to pick apples. Or sometimes I'd be chasing Roscoe, my dog, back in the fields, and each time I felt like someone was watching me, like eyes were on me through the tiny cracks in the old wood. It was a weird feeling. It was like a cold spot on my skin, like a shiver that wouldn't go away. I'd hurry past it, my heart beating a little faster. One afternoon, about 2 weeks after we moved in, I saw it. The shed door was open. Just a little bit. It was just a sliver of darkness showing, enough to make you wonder, enough to make you look twice. Now, here's the thing about that. I know for sure I never opened it. I hadn't even touched that old door, and I asked my mom and dad. They both said they hadn't gone near it either. But there it was. The door was swinging slow in the gentle wind. It moved back and forth like someone had just walked right out of it. My heart started to beat a little faster. A knot tightened in my stomach. It felt wrong, like a secret had just been let out. I took a step closer to the shed. Roscoe, my dog, was right behind me. He started making this low, soft whine. His ears flattened against his head. His tail was tucked way down low. He looked up at me with wide, scared eyes. Roscoe is usually brave. He's not scared of anything, really. He chases squirrels and barks at deer. But that day, he pulled back hard behind my legs. He tried to hide. He didn't want to go near it. That should have been my big sign. That should have told me to turn around and run, to get my parents. But I didn't. My feet kept moving. It was like something was pulling me. I walked right up to the shed. I pushed the door open the rest of the way. It made a long, rusty squeak. The sound scraped in the quiet air. It felt like a warning, but I ignored it. Inside, the shed looked empty at first. There were no tools hanging on the walls, no old cider barrels piled up anywhere, just a bunch of dry leaves scattered on the dirt floor. They crunched under my shoes. The air inside was still and cold. And right in the middle, sitting there all by itself, was one small thing. It was dark against the dusty ground. It was a leather glove. It was black. And it looked really thin, like the kind a doctor might wear for surgery. It looked too neat, too perfect, like it had been placed there just for me to find. But here's the part that made my stomach feel all twisted up. I reached out and touched it. It was still warm, like someone had just taken it off. My hand shook when I felt that warmth. It wasn't just warm, it was body warm, like a hand had just been inside it. My skin crawled. I backed out of the shed slowly. My eyes stayed glued to the glove. I didn't want to turn my back on it. I pulled the crooked door shut again, then I hooked the rusty latch tight. I pushed on it to make sure it was stuck. I ran to tell my dad. My breath came in ragged gasps. I felt like I couldn't get enough air. I told him someone might be trespassing on our land. I said maybe someone was sneaking around. I told him about the glove, but he just waved his hand. He brushed me off. He said the property line was secure. He told me I was watching too many crime shows on TV. He said it was probably just an old work glove. He didn't believe me. He just smiled a little and went back to what he was doing. I felt all alone with what I'd seen. It was like he didn't even hear the fear in my voice, like my words were just noise. It hurt. I couldn't sleep at all that night. My mind kept going back to the shed. I kept picturing someone out there in the dark orchard. I imagined them standing there, staring at our house, just watching. Every shadow looked like a person. The wind outside sounded like whispers. The branches tapping against the window sounded like fingers. I pulled the covers up high, and sure enough, just past midnight, Roscoe started making noises. He was under my bed. He started to growl. It wasn't a bark. He wasn't barking like he would at a squirrel. It was a low, steady growl, a deep sound from his chest. It was the kind of growl he made when he was really, truly scared. My heart pounded in my ears. It felt like a drum beating inside me, loud and fast. I could feel the bed shaking a little from Roscoe's fear. I slowly pulled back the curtain on my window. It was so dark outside. The trees looked like big, scary monsters. Their branches twisted like arms. Their shadows danced like ghosts. I squinted my eyes, trying to see. And then I saw it. There was a figure standing near the apple trees. It was just outside our yard. It was tall and thin. It was darker than the night around it, like a hole in the darkness. I couldn't see his face at all. It was too dark. But I could see a long coat and pale gloves. His body looked wrong. He stood in a way that made me think of someone who had forgotten how to stand like a person. It was all stiff. His arms hung straight down. His shoulders were hunched. He looked like a broken toy. His head was tilted a little bit, like he was listening to something, or maybe listening for me. I held my breath. I didn't dare move. I just stared, my eyes wide. I blinked my eyes hard. I blinked again, and when I opened them, he was gone. Just gone. The spot where he had been was empty. The trees looked normal again. The night seemed to settle. I told myself I had imagined it. My mind was playing tricks because I was tired and scared. I tried to believe it. But the next morning, I found something sitting on our porch step, right there, where anyone could see it. It was another glove, just like the one in the shed, black and thin. It felt warm, too. The same unsettling warmth, like it had just been worn. My stomach did a flip, only this one had something written on it. The ink was faded, like it was old, but I could still read it. It said, "Return what was taken." My hands started to shake. I didn't take anything. I swear I didn't. I just found the first glove. My mind raced. What was taken? Who took it? I had no answers. I showed it to my parents. I told them about the figure. I told them about the message. But they still didn't believe me. My dad said it was probably some local kids playing a prank on the new family. He said we were new here. He said people did that sometimes. He tried to make it sound normal. My mom said maybe I left the shed door open myself and forgot. She said I was dreaming things up. They just didn't get it. They didn't see the fear in my eyes. They didn't feel the cold dread. That night, the power went out. It was sudden. 1 minute the lights were on, the next, everything was black. The whole house went silent. It was that loud silence again, the kind that makes you hold your breath. And then, I heard it. Something heavy. It sounded like it was dragging across our wooden deck, a slow, scraping sound, like something rough being pulled over wood. It was coming closer. Roscoe was whimpering from under my bed. He was shaking. He knew something was wrong. His whole body trembled. He pressed himself against the wall. He was more scared than I had ever seen him. Then there was knocking. Not on the front door, not on the back door. It was at my window. Slow knocks. My breath caught in my throat. I squeezed my eyes shut. I didn't want to look. My heart was hammering. My hands were clammy. Every muscle in my body felt tight, but I had to. I pulled back the curtain again. My hands were shaking so much. There was nothing there, just the dark night and the trees. My window was empty. The glass was cold against my fingers. I peered out into the blackness. Nothing moved. But stuck to the glass, right in the middle, was a third glove. It was black and thin, just like the others. It was pressed flat against the pane, like someone had just placed it there. My eyes widened. Inside it, there was a note. It was folded twice. I opened it with shaky fingers. The paper felt old and dry. It crackled softly as I unfolded it. I held it up to the faint moonlight. It said, "He's not buried here. He still walks." I had no clue what that meant. Who wasn't buried? Who still walked? I hadn't touched anything. I hadn't dug anything up in the orchard. I just wanted to be left alone. But something was looking for someone, and it had decided our orchard was part of it. It felt like a trap. like I was caught in something I didn't understand, something old and dark. The next day, I knew I had to do something. My parents weren't helping. I had to find answers. I couldn't just sit there and wait. I felt like I was being watched all the time. I got on my bike and rode down to the town library. It was a small, quiet place. The air inside smelled like old books and dust. It felt safe for a moment. I walked up to the old woman at the front desk. She had kind eyes, but they looked tired. She wore a soft blue sweater. She smiled a little when I walked up. I asked her about Crosswind Orchard. I asked if she knew anything about the old farm. At first, she acted like she didn't know anything. She just shook her head and said it was just an old farm. She looked away, like she didn't want to talk about it. Her smile faded a little. Then I said the words. I said, "The Hollow Man." Her face went pale. All the color drained from it. Her eyes got wide. She looked scared. Her hands, which had been resting on the desk, suddenly gripped the edge. Her mouth opened a little. She leaned in closer to me. Her voice was a whisper. It was barely a sound. She said that decades ago, the land used to belong to a man named Kevin Griggs. He was a quiet man, she said, a loner. He didn't talk to many people. He kept to himself. People in town said he wore gloves all year round. Even in the summer, he never came into town much. He always had them on, black, thin gloves, no matter the weather. It was strange. Then, one winter, something terrible happened. A body was found on his land. It was an orchard worker. The worker was buried in the dirt, but not very deep, and his hands were missing. My stomach churned. Missing hands. That detail hit me hard. Kevin Griggs disappeared after that. The police never arrested him. Nobody ever knew if he died or just ran away. He just vanished, like he was never there. The farm was left empty. The locals started calling him the Hollow Man. They believed he had done something so terrible, something so bad that his soul had just leaked out of him. They said he wasn't fully there anymore. Just pieces of him were left, like the gloves. My legs went cold. My stomach dropped. It all made sense. The gloves, the feeling of being watched, the strange figure, the missing hands. It was all connected. A chill ran down my spine. I felt like I was going to throw up. That night, the knocking came again. But this time, it wasn't outside. It was inside the house. We never figured out how he got in. The doors were locked. The windows were shut. But I heard it. A faint creak of the floorboards downstairs. Then another. It was slow, deliberate, each creak closer than the last. Roscoe bolted. He ran out of my room so fast. I heard his claws scratching on the wood floor as he ran. He didn't even look back. He just ran. He was terrified. I locked myself in my closet. I pulled my knees up to my chest. I tried to be as quiet as possible. I held my breath. My heart was a frantic bird in my chest. I listened. I could hear the floorboards creaking. They were getting closer. That same slow dragging sound. It was like something heavy was being pulled across the floor, or maybe someone was dragging their feet. It came up the stairs. Each step was a thud, then a drag. Thud, drag. Then I heard it, right outside my closet door. Few soft knocks. My breath caught. I squeezed my eyes shut even tighter. My whole body was shaking. I thought I would scream, but no sound came out. My throat was tight. I waited. I counted in my head. 1, 2, 3. Nothing. Silence. The house was quiet again, but it was a different quiet now, a scared quiet. I stayed in that closet for a long, long time. I didn't move. I didn't make a sound. My legs cramped. My eyes hurt from being squeezed shut, but I couldn't open them. When the sun finally came up, light peeked through the cracks in the closet door. I slowly pushed it open. My eyes blinked against the light. I slowly uncurled myself. My body felt stiff. I looked around my room. Everything seemed normal. My bed was made. My toys were in their places. But then I saw it. There was a single glove on the floor, right in the middle of my room. This one was different. It was wrapped around an old photo. The paper was yellowed and bent. It looked like it had been handled a lot. The corners were soft and worn. It was a picture of Kevin Griggs. He was standing next to a young man. The young man in the photo looked a lot like my dad. He had the same eyes, the same way he slouched his shoulders. My stomach twisted. A cold wave washed over me. It wasn't just similar, it was him. Younger, but him. I showed it to my parents. My dad took the photo from me. His face went white. He stared at the picture. His hand trembled as he held it. His jaw was tight. My mom gasped. She put her hand over her mouth, her eyes filled with tears. They looked at each other. They didn't say a word to me. They just looked scared, more scared than I had ever seen them. It was a silent conversation between them. A terrible, knowing look. It felt like a betrayal. They moved us out of that house a week later. We packed up everything in a hurry. Boxes were thrown into the moving truck. There was no time to say goodbye. They never explained it to me. Not a single word. They just said we were leaving. They acted like it was just a normal move, but I knew it wasn't. We don't talk about Crosswind Orchard anymore. It's like it never happened. It's a secret that sits between us, a heavy, unspoken thing. But sometimes, I still find black gloves in the weirdest places. Once, on a park bench in our new town, it was tucked under a newspaper. Another time, in the back seat of a car we took, just sitting there, on the floor mat. And once, it was under my pillow, right there in my bed. They are always warm, always waiting, always a reminder, a cold, constant reminder of what happened, of what we left behind. And the last one I found, it had a new message stitched inside. Not written, stitched. The thread was dark against the black leather. It was neat and clear. It said, "He remembers blood." Man, I was tired. I mean, really, truly tired. My eyes felt like sandpaper and my back was screaming at me. Every part of me just ached. I'd been behind the wheel for what felt like forever, just pushing and pushing. Every single mile was a fight. The sun had gone down hours ago. Now it was just darkness and the highway. My body felt like a heavy sack of potatoes. I was driving through Louisiana. On this old road, they called it Route 71. It was a Thursday night, hot and sticky. The air outside felt thick and heavy, even with the windows up tight, and the AC blasting as cold as it could go. It felt like I was breathing soup. My clothes were sticking to me. My hair felt damp on my neck. I was heading to New Orleans, had a big job interview there. This was a real chance to make things right. A fresh start, you know? The kind you just can't mess up. This was my second chance at a good life. I had messed up before. Made some bad choices. This interview was my way to fix things. But I was beat. Completely worn out. My shoulders felt like rocks. My arms felt like lead. Even the loud music I had playing couldn't keep me awake anymore. My eyelids felt so heavy, like they had little weights on them. They kept wanting to close, just for a second. My head kept dipping down. Then, I saw it. A sign. It was flickering by the side of the road. It said, "The Drift Inn." It looked old and kind of sad, like it had seen too many long nights. But it also looked like a bed, a soft, warm bed. That was all I could think about, a place to rest my weary bones. I didn't even think about it. I just took the exit. My car bumped over the gravel in the parking lot. The sign buzzed, like a giant mosquito. It said, "Vacancy, $39 per night." That price seemed too low. It wasn't fancy, not at all. Just one of those long motels, shaped like an L, all on one floor. The lights on the porch flickered on and off, like they were tired too. Every few seconds they'd dim. It felt like a place from a really old movie, one you'd forgotten about, a place time forgot. There were only a few cars parked there, maybe 4. They looked as tired as the motel itself, dusty and worn out, like they had driven a million miles, just like my own car. I pulled my car into a spot. I just sat there for a second, letting out a long breath. It felt like I'd been holding my breath for hours. My chest felt tight. I walked to the front desk. Inside there was a woman. She looked bored, just staring at her phone. She had on pink slippers. They looked fuzzy. She barely even looked up when I walked in. Her hair was a mess, like she had just woken up, or hadn't slept at all. "Room?" I asked. My voice was raspy. It sounded like sandpaper, too. "5," she said. She didn't look at me. Her eyes stayed glued to her phone screen. $39, cash only. Her voice was flat, like she said it 100 times a day. No questions, no asking for my ID, just like that. It was strange. That should have been a big red flag, a warning sign. a giant waving flag. But I didn't care, not one bit. All I wanted was a bed, a place to close my eyes. I pulled out the crumpled bills from my wallet. I paid her the cash. She slid a key across the counter. It was one of those old-fashioned keys with a heavy plastic tag. The tag had Room 5 written on it, in faded black marker. It felt cold in my hand. I took it, feeling the tiredness deep in my bones. It was a heavy, dull ache. I dragged my suitcase across the broken sidewalk. It made a scraping sound, like nails on a chalkboard. The air was still so thick and warm. Even at night, it felt like a wet blanket. I found Room 5. The number was peeling off the door. I pushed the key in. It was stiff. It didn't want to turn. I had to wiggle it a bit. The door creaked open. It made a long, drawn-out sound, like an old man sighing. The room hit me with a smell. It was like old, wet clothes, mixed with too much air freshener, like someone was trying to cover something up. A strange, heavy smell. It made my nose wrinkle. The sheets on the bed looked thin and scratchy. They were a faded yellow, like old teeth. The air conditioner was rattling, making a loud noise, like it was about to break down. It sounded like a sick animal, a dog coughing, or a cat wheezing. But I didn't care about any of that. Not one bit. I just wanted to fall onto that bed and sleep for 100 years. Just close my eyes and disappear. I tossed my bag onto the floor. It landed with a soft thump. I didn't even bother to unpack. I pulled off my sweaty shirt. It stuck to my skin. It peeled off slowly. I was just about to fall onto the bed, to finally get some rest, to feel the softness, when I remembered something important. Something really important. My sister. She had a rehearsal dinner for her wedding coming up. Tomorrow night. I had promised her I'd bring her a clean dress shirt, a nice, crisp one, for her fiancé. He was going to wear it. And guess where that shirt was? It was at the very bottom of my bag, all crumpled up and sweaty. Just thinking about it made me sigh, a long, tired sigh. I couldn't give it to her like that. She'd kill me. She'd give me that look, the one that said, "You always do this." I looked around the room. There was a little paper, all laminated, stuck to the wall. It was the motel's directory, all the rules and numbers. I found the part about the laundry room. It said, "Laundry room, open 24 hours. Behind room 12. It was already past midnight, way past, but I figured, what the heck, I'd just go, throw the shirt in, get it rinsed super fast, and then hang it in the room to dry. It wouldn't take long, just a quick wash. I grabbed the shirt. It felt heavy and damp in my hand, like a wet rag. I found a small bottle of laundry soap in my bag, the travel size. I slipped on my sandals, the cheap kind. They made a slapping sound. Then, I headed back outside, into the sticky night. The night air was still thick and hot. It felt like a warm blanket, wrapping around me. It was hard to breathe, like the air was too heavy to move. Crickets were chirping everywhere, making a loud buzzing sound. It came in waves, like 1,000 tiny bells ringing, all at once. It was almost deafening. Somewhere close by, a dog barked, just once, a sharp, loud sound. Then it was quiet again. The sound seemed to hang in the air for a moment. The lights outside room 12 were all off. It was dark over there, really dark, but I saw a dim light, flickering weakly, near a narrow path. It looked like it led behind the motel building, into the blackness. I followed that little light. It felt like walking into a dark tunnel. The path was uneven, and I could barely see where I was stepping. Twigs crunched under my sandals. The air felt even heavier back there, like it was pressing down on me, making it hard to move. The laundry room was weird, really weird. It had no windows, none at all. Just a pale green door. It looked like it had been painted a long, long time ago. The paint was peeling. I pushed it open. The door made a long, slow creaking sound, like an old ghost sighing. Inside, the room was stuffy. The air was thick and warm, like no fresh air ever got in there. It smelled like old soap and damp concrete. A musty, forgotten smell. There were 2 washing machines and 2 dryers. They stood in a line, like old, forgotten vending machines. They looked really old. like they had been there forever. Their metal bodies were scratched and dented, like they had seen a lot of hard use. The floor was sticky under my sandals. My feet made a soft, squelching sound. I didn't want to think about what made it sticky. My mind just pushed that thought away. In one corner there was a plastic chair, chipped and worn. It looked like it had been through a war. And there was a vending machine, humming softly, a low, steady buzz. Most of its lights were out, so you couldn't really see what was inside. It looked like it hadn't been used in a long, long time. Maybe never. I put my sister's shirt into one of the washing machines. It felt small and lonely in the big drum. I poured in the soap. It was blue. It made a little splash. Then, I pressed the button to start it. The big, round button. The machine rattled really hard for a second, like it was going to shake apart. It made a loud, clanking sound, like old bones. Then, it settled into a loud, steady churning noise. A deep, rumbling sound. It filled the small room. I sat down on the plastic chair. It felt hard and uncomfortable. My back still ached. I pulled out my phone, thinking I'd scroll through stuff while I waited, maybe check the news or just play a simple game, anything to pass the time. But there was no Wi-Fi, no signal at all, nothing. My phone was just a dead screen. Whatever, I mumbled to myself. I just put it back in my pocket. About 10 minutes went by. The washing machine kept churning, a loud, steady hum, in the quiet room. It was the only sound. It felt like it was getting louder. Then, the laundry room door creaked open, slowly, with that same sighing sound. A man stepped inside. He looked off. That's the only way to say it. He just didn't seem right. He must have been around 50 years old. His gray hair was pulled back into a greasy ponytail, really slicked down, like he used too much gel or maybe just sweat. He wore an oversized shirt. It was faded, with old football logos. You could barely make them out. They were just blurry shapes, like ghosts of old teams. He just stood there for a moment, in the doorway, like he was waiting for something. He didn't say anything at first. He just looked at me. His eyes were kind of flat, like he was looking through me, not at me, like I wasn't even there. Then he looked at the washing machine, then back at me again. His stare made my skin crawl a little. It was a long, quiet stare, like he was trying to figure me out, or like he knew something I didn't. "You staying here?" he finally asked. His voice was slow, really raspy, like he hadn't used it much. It sounded like dry leaves rustling or rocks scraping. I nodded. "Yeah," I said. I tried to sound normal, like everything was fine. "Just doing a quick wash." I tried to make my voice steady. He smiled then, but it wasn't a real smile. It didn't reach his eyes at all. His eyes stayed flat and cold. It was a strange, unsettling kind of smile, like a mask, not a real feeling. It made my stomach clench. "People don't usually come back here at night," he said. His voice was still slow, like he was thinking hard about each word, like he was choosing them carefully. I chuckled a little. I tried to make it sound casual, like it was no big deal. "Well, I'm people," I said. I wanted him to just leave me alone. I just wanted him to go away, to disappear. He just kept staring at me for a few more seconds. It felt like a really long time. Every second felt like an hour. My skin prickled. Then, he slowly walked over to the vending machine, the dark, silent one. He pressed a few buttons on it. Hard. Nothing happened. No soda, no candy. Nothing came out. The machine just sat there, dark and silent. "Figures," he muttered. He sounded annoyed, like this happened all the time. Then, he turned around. He didn't say another word. He just walked out the door. The door creaked shut behind him, slowly, with that same long, sighing sound. Something about the whole thing left me feeling really uneasy. My stomach felt a little twisted, like I had swallowed a rock. I stared at the door for a while, just thinking. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of it, but it couldn't. I thought maybe I should just grab my shirt, even if it was still soaking wet, and just get out of there, just bail, run. But then I thought about tomorrow, my big interview, my second chance. I didn't want to show up looking like a total mess, like I hadn't showered in days. The washing machine was still going, churning loudly, a steady, comforting noise. So I waited. I just sat there on that hard plastic chair, listening to the machine. My heart was beating a little faster than it should have been. A quick, nervous thump. About 10 minutes later, the lights flickered, just once, but it was enough. The whole room went completely dark, pitch black. I couldn't see anything. My breath caught in my throat. My eyes went wide. Then, just as fast, the lights came back on. And when they did, I swear, I saw something. In the shiny reflection of the dryer door. It was like a figure, standing right behind me. Just for a split second. A dark shape. It was tall and thin, like a shadow. But it was there. I spun around so fast. My head felt light, like it was floating. My eyes darted around the room, but there was nothing there, just the empty space behind me. My heart was really racing now, thumping hard against my ribs, like a trapped bird. The washing machine finally gave a loud beep. It stopped. The churning noise died down. The sudden silence was even louder than the machine. It pressed in on me. I quickly opened the washer. I grabbed my sister's shirt. It felt heavy with water. I moved it to the dryer, practically throwing it in. My hands were shaking. I slammed the dryer door shut. It made a loud bang in the quiet room. It echoed for a second. Then silence again. I pressed the button to start it. The very moment I pressed that button, the door behind me opened again. My breath hitched. I froze. My blood ran cold. But it wasn't the same man. This time it was a kid. A boy. He looked really young, maybe 8 or 9 years old. He had pale skin, really messy hair, like he had just rolled out of bed, and dark circles under his eyes, like he hadn't slept in a long time. He walked in barefoot. His feet made no sound on the sticky floor. He was staring straight ahead, like he didn't even see me there, like I was invisible. My heart was pounding. "Hey kid," I said. My voice came out a little shaky. Where's your mom?" I tried to sound calm, but I wasn't. He didn't answer. He just kept walking. He walked right past me, not even looking my way. He went straight to the washing machine I had just emptied. He opened it. The empty drum stared back at him, cold and dark. I didn't stop him. I was too frozen, too shocked by how strange, how unreal this whole thing was. My mind couldn't keep up. He looked inside the empty washer for a moment. His eyes were wide. Then, very slowly, he turned his head toward me. His eyes were wide and dark, like deep pools. They seemed to hold so much sadness. "Did you see her?" he asked. His voice was a whisper, so soft I almost didn't hear it, over the sound of the dryer. It was a faint, breathy sound. "Who?" I asked. My throat felt tight, like someone was squeezing it. "My mom," he whispered. His voice was barely there, like a ghost. "She never came out." "What do you mean?" I asked. My mind was trying to make sense of his words, but it couldn't. It just spun in circles. He just kept staring at the empty washer, like it held some kind of secret, like it was a door to somewhere else, a dark, hidden place. "She went in when the clothes were spinning," he said. His voice was flat, no emotion. Okay, that was it. I stood up from the chair. My legs felt shaky. This was getting way too weird. My skin felt cold all over, like I was covered in ice. "All right, look, buddy," I said. I tried to sound calm, but my voice was shaking a little. "Maybe you should go back to your room. I can take you to the front desk." I tried to reach out to him, to offer help, to make sense of it. "I don't have a room," he whispered. His voice was so small, so lost. Suddenly the dryer stopped. It didn't slow down. It didn't beep. It just stopped, like someone had pulled the plug, right out of the wall. The loud whirring sound just died. The room went dead silent. The only sound was my own breathing, fast and shallow. My heart was hammering, like it wanted to break out of my chest. When I looked back at the boy, he was gone. Just gone. There were no footsteps, no sound at all. The door didn't creak open again, nothing. He was just not there anymore, like he had never been there. I grabbed my shirt from the dryer. It was still damp. heavy with water. I didn't care. I didn't care about anything. I just ran out the door. I didn't even look back. I just ran as fast as I could. I didn't sleep that night, not one wink, not even for a second. I went back to my room, slammed the door shut, and locked it. I left all the lights on, every single one, the dim bedside lamp, the bright overhead light. I sat upright in the bed, my back against the headboard. My eyes were glued to the door. I watched it, every second, until the sun finally started to come up. The first light of morning felt like a miracle, a warm, golden light. I could finally breathe, a deep, shaky breath. The fear slowly started to fade. When I checked out in the morning, the woman at the desk was different. She was older than the one from last night, and she was smiling. She seemed friendly. Her hair was neat. Her clothes were clean. She looked normal. "Everything all right?" she asked. Her voice was kind, soft and gentle. "Hey," I said slowly. My voice still felt rough from not sleeping. "Do you know if there was a kid here last night? A boy? Maybe lost or something?" Her smile faded a little bit, just a little. Her eyes looked at me, then down at the counter. Her fingers traced a pattern on the wood. She seemed to be thinking. "In the laundry room?" she asked. Her voice was quiet now. "Yeah," I said. My heart started to beat a little faster again. A nervous flutter. She looked down for a moment, then back up at me. Her expression was serious now. Her eyes held a sadness. "That's strange," she said. "You're not the first to ask about that." I just waited. My stomach felt cold. I knew she was going to say something. Something bad. Something that would make my skin crawl all over again. "Years ago," she started, her voice soft, almost a whisper. "A mother and her son stayed here, just for a night, like you." She paused. I didn't say anything. I just listened, every word. "The boy," she went on, "he wandered off while his mom was doing laundry. It was late at night, just like you." Her eyes met mine. She shook her head slowly. "They never found him. Not ever. The police looked, everyone looked, but he was just gone." Then she looked right at me. Her eyes were sad, full of old pain. "Some folks say he disappeared into the machines, right into the washers." I didn't say another word. I just turned around and walked out. I didn't even look back at the motel. I just got in my car and drove away. I didn't stop until I was miles down the road. The sun was fully up now. I don't stop at roadside motels anymore. Not ever. Not even for a quick nap. Not even if I'm so tired I can barely see. I just keep driving. And I haven't worn that shirt since. The one I washed that night. It's still in my closet, folded up, at the very back. It still smells like mildew, even after all this time. A faint, damp smell. And sometimes, when I open my closet late at night, when the house is quiet and dark, I swear I hear it. That low, steady hum, the sound of the spin cycle. Just for a second, and then it's gone. But I know it was there, and I know what it means. It means he's still there, spinning, waiting. I met Lydia on a Monday, and it was one of those really quiet days at my job. The lights above me hummed louder than the phones. The air in the office felt thick and still, like it was holding its breath. My chair creaked a little every time I shifted. I just sat there, staring at my computer screen. My desk felt too big for the small amount of work I had to do. Then the glass door to the office opened. A soft bell above it jingled, a tiny, clear sound in the quiet. I looked up, and there she was. She walked in wearing a dark blue coat. It was long, almost to her ankles, and buttoned up tight to her neck. Her hair was dark too, pulled back neatly in a low ponytail. She came right up to my counter, not looking left or right. Her eyes were very calm, like a still pond on a windless day. She asked about a paper for changing her address. It was a simple question, the kind I got 100 times a day. But what really got me was how she talked. Her voice was low, almost a whisper, but it filled the quiet space. It was like she already knew me somehow, not just me, but something deep inside, something private. "You look different than your photo," she said, her voice flat. She didn't smile when she said it. Her face stayed completely still, no change at all. I just stood there, holding the form she needed. My mind raced, trying to figure out what she meant. I didn't have a photo anywhere at work. Not on my desk, not in my cubicle. I didn't say anything back. My mouth felt dry, like I'd been walking in the desert. It was a strange start, for sure, to meeting someone new. But she just waited. Her calm eyes watched me. It was like she knew I would give her the form anyway, so I did. My hand felt cold as I passed it over. We ended up dating for 8 months. It happened fast, after that first meeting. She kept coming back to the office, always with another question, another form, and somehow we just started talking. Small talk at first, then longer talks. Then we went out for coffee, then dinner. It felt easy, in a strange way. Lydia was always very calm. It was like she thought about everything a lot before she said it. Every single word was chosen carefully, like she was building something. She wasn't loud or trying to get attention. She never laughed too loud or made big movements. She was just there, always watching. But she saw things. Small things. Things nobody else would notice, not even if they tried really hard. Things I didn't even notice about myself. She'd point out a tiny crack in the sidewalk I walked on every day, a crack I'd stepped over for years without seeing, or the way a certain bird always landed on the same branch outside my window. One time, she told me the exact number of red tiles on my kitchen floor. "There are 42, she said, just like that. I hadn't even known they were red. I just thought they were dark, a sort of brownish red. I counted them later that night, after she left. She was right. Every single one. 42. I just thought she was super good at looking, like a detective with superpowers. I even told her that. "You're like a detective," I said, laughing a little nervously. She just gave me that calm, still look, her eyes unblinking. She didn't laugh back. She just watched me, her head tilted slightly. It was a little bit creepy, I had to admit, but I told myself it was just her way. She was just quiet. But then it started to get weird, really weird. It felt off, like a bad smell you can't quite place. A smell that follows you, even when you try to run. It wasn't just little things anymore. It was big things. Things that made my stomach clench up tight, like a fist. Things that made my skin prickle. One night she told me something that made my skin crawl. We were just sitting on my couch watching a movie. The lights were low. The sounds of the TV filled the room. She leaned closer, her voice even softer than usual, barely a whisper. "You sleep on your side," she said. It wasn't a question, it was a statement. "But you always roll onto your back around 2:30 in the morning." My breath hitched in my throat. The movie sounds faded away. She kept going, like she was reading from a book only she could see. "You breathe heavier then," she added. "Like you're dreaming hard, or fighting something." That wasn't a guess. That was something she had watched, something she had seen with her own eyes, inside my apartment, when I was asleep. My heart started to beat fast, a drum in my chest. Boom, boom, boom. It felt like it would burst out. How could she know that? I lived alone. My apartment was on the 3rd floor. I locked my doors every single night, double-checked the windows. I felt safe there. The thought made my stomach twist into a tight, cold knot. My hands felt clammy, suddenly wet with sweat. I couldn't look at her face. I made an excuse, said I was tired, that the movie was boring. I walked her to the door, my legs feeling like jelly, like they might give out. I just wanted her gone, out of my apartment, out of my sight. I broke up with her quietly a few days later. I called her on the phone because I couldn't face her. My voice was shaky, but I tried to sound strong. I told her I wasn't ready for anything serious, that I needed time alone, to figure things out. It was a lie. A big, fat lie. But I couldn't tell her the truth. I couldn't say, "You scare me, Lydia. You know too much about me. You're in my house." She just nodded her head on the other end of the phone. I could almost see her calm face, her still eyes. "I understand," she said. Her voice was flat, without any sadness. Then she asked, May I leave one thing behind? My voice was shaky when I said no. A quick, sharp no, almost a gasp. I wanted her out of my life, completely. Every single trace. I wanted to forget those strange words she said, those terrifying observations. I wanted to feel safe again, to feel like my home was my own, a private place, to feel like my life was private, just for me. But 3 days later, I was at work. The same quiet office, the same humming lights above my head, the same boring computer screen. I opened the bottom drawer of my desk. I was looking for a pen, nothing special, just a blue ballpoint. And there it was, a blue folder. Not dark blue like her coat, but a bright, plain blue. No name on it, no label, no writing at all. Just plain blue. My hand shook as I pulled it out. It felt heavy, like it was full of rocks or something solid. My heart started to pound, a frantic beat. The first paper inside was a photo of me. It was a picture of me sitting on my couch, my back turned to the camera. I was reading a book, a big old paperback with a worn cover. My hair was messy, sticking up in places. It was clearly my living room. The time on the photo said it was taken 2 nights ago. 2 nights ago, after I had broken up with her, my own house, my own couch, my own private time when I thought I was all alone, safe behind locked doors. My breath caught in my throat, a dry gasp. How? How did she get in? How did she take this picture without me knowing? A cold shiver ran down my spine, chilling me to the bone. There were other papers too, lots of them. Pages and pages of notes, all typed out, neat and clean, like a school report. June 12th, 3:44 p.m. He picked at his right thumbnail, sign of stress. That was a real thing I did, a nervous habit. I did it when I was thinking hard or when I was worried about something. How could she know that? She wasn't even there. June 14th, 2:31 a.m. He muttered a name in his sleep. I couldn't catch it. This was the exact same time she said I rolled over. The same time she said I breathed heavier. My blood ran cold, freezing in my veins. She had been there, in my bedroom, watching me sleep. June 19th, 6:05 p.m. He threw away a receipt from a place he's never taken me. My mind raced, trying to remember that receipt. Was she going through my trash? My trash can was outside, by the curb, on trash day. But still, the thought made me feel sick, like I'd eaten something bad. It just kept going. Dates, times, tiny little things I didn't even know about myself, things I did without thinking. It was like reading a secret diary of my own life, written by someone else. Every habit, every little movement, every hidden thought. But it wasn't my diary. It was hers. And it was all about me, every single word, every single detail. There was nothing in the folder from before we met, only notes and pictures from after. After she came into my life, after she walked into my office with that quiet voice and those still eyes, after she asked about that address change form. I felt sick. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the folder onto the floor. My stomach churned, a sour feeling. I couldn't stand to look at it anymore. It felt like poison, like it was burning my hands, even though it was just paper. I had to get rid of it. I needed to erase it. I needed to pretend it never happened, ever, like a bad dream. I took the folder outside, to the grill behind my apartment building. It was an old, rusty thing, usually only used for summer barbecues. I tore the pages out one by one. Each tear felt like ripping a piece of my own skin, a painful, sharp sound. I lit them on fire with a match. The paper curled and turned black like old, dry leaves. The flames danced, orange and red. The smoke smelled like burning secrets, dark and bitter. It stung my eyes, making them water. I coughed, but kept watching. I watched every single piece burn to ash. I stirred the ashes with a stick, making sure nothing was left. I wanted to burn away the fear too. I wanted to burn away the feeling of being watched. To burn away Lydia and everything she had done. I couldn't stay in my apartment that night, not with that feeling hanging in the air, thick and heavy. not with the memory of those pictures. I called a friend, Mark. He lived across town. I told him I needed to crash at his place. "Just for tonight," I said, my voice tight. He didn't ask why. He just said, "Sure, man. Come on over." I was glad. I couldn't explain it. Who would believe me anyway? Who would believe a story about a girl who knew when you rolled over in your sleep and left creepy folders? I tried to sleep at his place, but every sound made me jump. Every creak of the floorboards, every car passing outside, every shadow looked like her, tall and still, watching me from the corner of the room. I kept seeing the photo in my mind. Me, on my couch, reading a book, not knowing I was being watched. It was a terrible feeling, like being naked in a crowd, like being a bug under a magnifying glass with someone always looking, like being trapped in my own skin. 2 days later, I went back to my apartment. I was still jumpy, still looking over my shoulder every few seconds. Every car that passed seemed to slow down. Every person walking by seemed to stare at me, even if they weren't. I walked to my mailbox. My friend Mark had checked it for me the day before, while I was still at his place. He said it was empty. He had even joked about it. "Nothing but bills, man," he'd said, laughing. "You're safe from junk mail." But when I opened it, there it was. A second blue folder, taped right to the inside, like someone had put it there just moments before. It was the same bright blue, the same plain cover. My friend swore he hadn't seen anyone near the mailboxes. He said he checked it carefully, pulled out all the junk mail, even looked inside. It was like magic or something worse. My hands trembled as I pulled it out. My heart pounded in my chest, a frantic, loud drum solo inside me. I could barely breathe. The air felt thin. I knew what was inside. I didn't want to open it, but I had to. Inside were more notes, pages and pages of typed words, just like the first one. But this time, there were also pictures, Polaroids. They were grainy, dark, hard to see clearly, but I knew what they were. My stomach dropped. Pictures of me sleeping, my face pressed into the pillow, my arm thrown over my head, exposed. One of me brushing my teeth, toothpaste on my chin. My eyes looked blurry in the photo, half asleep. One of me shirtless, taken through a window. The blinds were slightly open, just a sliver, enough for a camera lens. They were numbered, like they were part of a long list, a series, a sequence of moments from my life. Each one was a new entry. Each picture was a punch to my gut, a cold, hard reminder that she was still there, still watching, still getting into my home, still seeing me when I thought I was safe, when I was most vulnerable. I felt like I was going crazy. My mind was spinning, a whirlwind of fear and confusion. I couldn't live like this, not anymore. I had to do something, anything. I couldn't just sit there and wait for the next one. I went to the police station. The building felt cold and gray like a tomb. My voice was tight, like a rope pulled too tight. I tried to explain everything. About Lydia, about the folders, about the pictures, about the feeling of being watched. They listened. They looked at me with kind but tired eyes, like they'd heard it all before, 1,000 times. They asked if I had any proof it was her, any name, any address, any connection, anything that would hold up. I said she had left something behind. They asked what. I said, a folder. Just those 2 words. As soon as I said it, I could hear how silly it sounded. A folder, no name, no fingerprints. Just a plain blue folder, like it could have come from anywhere, like it could have been left by anyone. They asked if there were any fingerprints. No. Any writing? No. Any digital trail? No. The officer shrugged a little. He looked at the folder, then back at me, his face showing pity. He said the folder might as well have fallen from the sky. There was nothing they could do. Nothing. My shoulders slumped, the weight of the world on them. I walked out of that station feeling emptier than before, more alone than ever. The police couldn't help me. Nobody could. I was on my own, completely. I knew I had to disappear. I had to make myself invisible. It was my only choice, my last hope. The next day, I walked into my boss's office. My hands were shaking, but I kept them in my pockets, hidden. I told him I had to leave, right away, no 2 weeks' notice. He looked surprised, but I couldn't explain why. I packed only what I could carry, a small backpack, A few shirts, a pair of jeans, my toothbrush. I left almost everything behind. My furniture, my books, my old life, my memories. I didn't care. I just needed to go, to get away, to breathe. I moved to a new city, far away, hundreds of miles across state lines. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Not Mark, not my family, no one. I wanted to be a ghost, a person who never existed. I started fresh, no social media. I deleted all my accounts, wiped them clean, no apps on my phone, just the basics. I got a new phone number, new email address, new everything. I tried to erase my old life, to become a ghost, a person no one could find, no one could track. For a while, things were quiet. The days blurred into weeks, then months. I got a new, simple job. I started to breathe a little easier. The knot in my stomach loosened, bit by bit. I even thought, maybe I was safe. Maybe she had given up. Maybe she had forgotten about me. I tried to believe it with all my heart. I wanted it to be true so badly. It hurt. Then, one day, I was at the DMV, getting my new driver's license. My new identity, my new name on paper. The woman at the counter was typing really slowly, slower than normal, like she was thinking hard. I watched her fingers move, one by one. She looked up at me. Her eyes were bright, almost sparkling. She smiled a little, a faint, knowing smile. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was a smile that knew something. Something about me. Something secret. "Your signature changed," she said. Just those 3 words. My blood ran cold, turning to ice. My hand froze on the counter, still holding the pen. My heart stopped. Just stopped, for a long moment. It was her. She had found me. Again. How? How did she always find me, no matter how far I ran? That night, I got home. My new apartment. My new safe place, or so I thought. It was small, just one room, a studio. I had picked it because it was tucked away, on a quiet street. I walked into my closet, to hang up my jacket, to put my few clothes away, and there it was. A 3rd blue folder, taped right to the inside of my closet door, waiting for me, like it knew I was coming. My knees felt weak. They almost buckled, sending me to the floor. My hands started to shake again, worse than before. It was like a nightmare that never ended, a bad dream I couldn't wake up from, no matter how hard I tried. This time, there were no photos, just one sheet of paper inside, plain white, crisp and clean. July 7th, 4 a.m. It read at the top. Then, a few lines of typed words, short and sharp. "He thinks deleting himself will save him." My eyes scanned the words, my breath held tight in my chest. He still doesn't get it. My breath hitched. A cold dread spread through me, chilling my bones. I'm not following. I'm recording. That last line hit me like a physical blow, like someone had punched me hard in the chest, knocking the wind out of me. Not following, recording, it meant she wasn't chasing me, she wasn't looking for me, she was just writing down my life, my every move, my every new hiding place, my every failed attempt to escape. She already knew, she was just writing it down, a never-ending story. I left that apartment within the hour. I didn't even pack a bag, I just ran. I ran out the door, down the stairs, and into the night. I didn't look back, not even once. I stayed in motels, cheap ones, far from any main roads, usually on the edge of small towns. I paid in cash, always cash. I slept in the back seat of a rental car sometimes, just to feel like I was moving, always moving. Like I was always one step ahead, even when I knew I wasn't. I even spent 2 weeks at a church shelter, hiding among the lost. I used a different name there, John Smith or Mike Jones. I tried to blend in, to be nobody, to be invisible, to be a part of the crowd, a face in the background. But the folder always found me. It was like it knew where I was going before I did. It was like it was always there, waiting. Just around the corner, just out of sight. One time, it was tucked in the microwave of a roadside diner. I had stopped there for gas and a quick bite, feeling safe for a moment. I opened the microwave, and there it was, sitting on the glass plate. Bright blue. My heart leaped into my throat. Another time, It was waiting in a public library book, wedged between pages 113 and 114 of a book called The Stranger. I had picked it at random, just walked up to the shelf and grabbed it, thinking nothing of it, and there it was. I stopped opening them after a while. I just couldn't. The fear was too much, too heavy. It was like a heavy weight on my chest, pressing down. Every time I saw that blue, my heart would race, my hands would shake. I would find them, see the blue, and just leave them there, on a bench, in a trash can, or throw them away without looking inside. I'd toss them in a public trash can, or leave them on a park bench, or just drop them on the sidewalk. It was my way of fighting back, my way of saying, I won't let you scare me anymore. I won't play your game. But it didn't work. The fear was always there. A cold knot in my stomach, a constant ache, a constant hum of dread, like a buzzing fly I couldn't swat away, always in my ear. Until the last one. The very last one I ever found. I was sleeping on a Greyhound bus station bench in Kansas. I was so tired, so worn out. My body ached, every muscle screaming. My mind was fuzzy from lack of sleep, a dull throb behind my eyes. I just wanted to rest, to stop running. I woke up slowly, the harsh station lights hurting my eyes. The bus station was mostly empty, just a few other tired souls. And there it was, placed right beside me, under my arm, like I had been holding it in my sleep, like it was mine, like it belonged to me. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drum. I picked it up. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold it steady. I opened it. It was empty, completely empty. Nothing inside at all, not a single piece of paper. Just one small note, taped to the inside cover. White paper, typed words, short and chilling. We are almost finished. That's all it said. My mind spun, trying to make sense of it. What did that mean? What was finished? Was it over? Was I safe now? Was this the end of the game? The end of the chase? Or was it something else? Something worse? The words echoed in my head, a chilling whisper. Something has shifted since then. I feel it. A change in the air, a quiet settling. It's not just the fear anymore. It's a feeling of completion, like a story reaching its final page. Every mirror I look into, I swear I see her. Just for a split second, a flicker. Behind me. Always out of focus, a blur of dark hair and still eyes. Always gone when I turn my head. A quick blur. A shadow that isn't there. It makes my skin crawl, a cold sensation. It's like she's a part of me now. A part of my reflection, a ghost in my own vision. I tried to tell a therapist about it. I sat in a soft chair, the room quiet and warm. I talked for a long time. About the folders, about the pictures, about the fear, about the feeling of being watched. They smiled. They nodded. They looked kind, like they understood everything I was saying. Tell me about Lydia again, they said. Their voice was soft, gentle, but the way they said again made my skin crawl. It was like they knew. I never told them her name, not once. I never said the name Lydia out loud to them, not a single time. So how did they know? It was like a cold hand grabbed my heart and squeezed it tight. I didn't go back to that therapist. I couldn't. I was too scared, too terrified of what else they knew. I'm not being followed anymore. I know that now. The folders stopped appearing, completely, but I'm being documented. That's what she said. I'm recording. It feels like I'm part of something bigger, an experiment, a case study, a project that never asked for my permission. My whole life laid bare, every secret exposed, every breath, every thought, every step, all written down for someone else to read. And I think I'm nearing the last page, the last entry, the end of her record. I don't know what happens then. I don't know what finished truly means for me. Does it mean I disappear completely? Or does it mean she finally reveals herself, steps out of the shadows? But I feel it coming, like the last breath before a big silence, like the last page of a very long book about my life. And I'm terrified. When I first came to Chicago, I needed a place to live. I was fresh out of my small town. I felt a little scared, but mostly excited. I had big dreams, you know. Chicago felt like a giant, busy place. I wanted to start all new here. So, I looked for an apartment. It took a while. Then I found this big building. It was called the Mercer Arms. It stood tall and dark. It was really old. It had stone on the outside, like buildings from a very long time ago. It looked like a place that could have ghosts. Even if it didn't, it just felt like it could. It had a spooky kind of charm. The rent was super cheap. That made me wonder a little bit. It was almost too good to be true. But the apartment inside was nice. It had really tall ceilings. The floors were made of wood, old and shiny. And the best part? I could see the river from my window. The water sparkled in the sun. It looked so pretty. So, I signed the papers fast. I didn't ask many questions. I just wanted to move in. I really should have asked more, so many more. I wish I had known then. On my very first day, I got into the elevator. I pushed the button for my floor. That was number 4. The elevator started to go up, but it stopped on every single floor. It went 1, then 2, then 3. It stopped at each one. The doors opened, then closed. Even though I only wanted to go to my floor, I just thought, well, it's an old building. Old things do weird stuff sometimes. I didn't think much of it. But then something strange happened. Something really caught my eye. I looked at the buttons again. There was no button for the 5th floor. I looked very closely. My eyes went over each one. There was a button for 1. There was a button for 2. Then 3 and 4. They were all there. After the button for 4, it just jumped. It went straight to 6. There was a big empty space. That space was where 5 should have been. It was just a blank spot, like it was never there. I felt a little confused. My eyebrows went up. So, I went to find the building manager. His name was Arthur. He was an old man. He had a lot of wrinkles on his face. Arthur smelled a bit like onions, and something else too, maybe like old dusty wood. His office was small and dark. It had lots of papers piled up. He looked up when I came in. I asked him about the 5th floor. "Excuse me, sir," I said, "about the elevator." "There is no 5th floor," he said. His voice was flat. It was very calm. He said it like I had asked him about the weather, like it was a normal thing. No big deal. I tried to make him understand. "But why is the wall so wide there?" I asked. "Between floor 4 and floor 6. He looked at me for a short moment. His eyes were kind of cloudy, like he was looking through me. Then he just said, "Old buildings settle weird." He didn't smile. He didn't blink. After that, he just walked away. He didn't say anything else. He just left me standing there. He went back to his papers, like I wasn't even there. I felt so strange, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. It stayed in my mind. Why no 5th floor? Why that wide wall? It bothered me all day. I kept thinking of that empty space. It just didn't make sense. That night, I was in my apartment. It was quiet. Too quiet, maybe. I was reading a book. Then, I heard a loud sound from above me. It made me jump. My book almost fell. It was a door. It slammed shut. It was so sudden and so loud. My heart jumped a little. Then I heard footsteps. They were slow. Each step was clear. Someone was walking around, pacing. It sounded like they were walking back and forth. I knew the sound was right above my ceiling. My apartment was on the 4th floor, so the sound was coming from where the 5th floor should be, the one that wasn't there. I tried to tell myself it was just the building. Old buildings make noises, pipes, wind, things like that. But this sound was different. It was too clear, too much like real footsteps. I decided to go upstairs. I wanted to check the 6th floor. Maybe the sound was coming from there. I took the elevator up to 6. When the doors opened, the hallway was very quiet. It felt empty. The lights were bright. The carpet was clean. It looked like any other floor. I looked at the mailboxes. Half of the apartments on the 6th floor were empty. Nobody lived there. It was too quiet for someone to be pacing. There were no sounds at all. But the sound kept going. It was still right above my ceiling. It was the pacing. Slow, steady steps. That meant it had to be the fifth floor, the one that didn't exist, the one Arthur said was never there. A cold feeling started in my stomach. It wasn't just old building noises. This was something else. It felt like a chill spreading through me, like someone had opened a window in a cold room. I tried to tell myself it was just my imagination, or maybe the old pipes made weird sounds. But the pacing felt too real. It had a rhythm. It was too much like a person walking. I went back to my apartment. I tried to sleep, but the sound kept me awake. It was like someone was walking back and forth, right above my head. It felt like they were right above my bed, just walking, never stopping. It was a long, dark night. I pulled the covers up high. I closed my eyes tight. But the sound was still there. The next day I felt tired. I drank a lot of coffee. I tried to forget the sound, but it was hard. Every little noise made me jump. I kept looking up at my ceiling. The second night was the same. The pacing started again. Right when it got dark, it went on all night long, back and forth. It felt like it was waiting for me. I barely slept. My eyes felt heavy. My head hurt from not sleeping. On the third night, something new happened. I was in the elevator again. I was going up to my apartment. It was late. The building was quiet. I was just thinking about my warm bed. The elevator stopped. It dinged softly, and a red light showed up. It was the number 5. My breath caught in my throat. My heart gave a hard thump. There was no button for it. I hadn't pressed anything. I just stood there, staring. My eyes were wide. The doors opened slowly. They made a soft, creaking sound. I stared out into a long hallway. It looked different from my floor. Very different. It was not like any other floor. It smelled strange, like wet brick and old, damp dirt. A smell that made my nose wrinkle. It was a heavy, old smell, like a place that had been closed up for a long, long time. The carpet was different too. It was a dark, dark green. It looked very old and worn out. It was faded in spots, like many feet had walked on it for years and years. The lights in the hallway buzzed. They were dim. They flickered a little, making shadows dance. The shadows moved on the walls. They looked like long, skinny arms reaching out. No other floors in the building looked like this. My floor was bright. The 6th floor was bright. This was dark and creepy. It felt wrong, like a place that shouldn't be there. I stood in the elevator. My feet felt stuck to the floor. I didn't step out. I just stared. My body felt frozen. I couldn't move. I just looked into the dark hallway. At the very far end of the hallway, I saw someone. A woman. She was standing there. She was facing the wall. Her back was to me. She wasn't moving, not even a little bit. She just stood there, facing the wall. It was very quiet. Too quiet. My heart was pounding. I could hear my own blood rushing in my ears. The silence was loud. Then, the elevator doors started to close. They shut slowly. I didn't move. I couldn't. I just watched them close. My eyes were still glued to the woman. She didn't turn. The elevator kept going up. It went to 6, like nothing had happened. Like it was just a normal stop. But it wasn't normal. I had seen it. The 5th floor. The woman. The smell. It was all real. It was not a dream. I knew it in my bones. I went straight to Arthur again. I ran to his office. I knocked hard on the door. He opened it slowly. He looked annoyed, like I was bothering him. I told him everything, about the elevator stopping, about the red 5 light. I told him about the strange hallway, the dark green carpet, the buzzing lights, the smell, and I told him about the woman, standing still, facing the wall. I tried to make him understand how real it was. My voice was shaky. I was talking fast. I needed him to believe me. Arthur just shook his head slowly. He looked tired. He said I had been dreaming. "You must have been really tired," he mumbled. "Old buildings can make you dream strange things." He didn't believe me at all. He just waved his hand, like he was pushing my words away. He acted like I was crazy, like I was making it all up. But I knew what I saw. I felt so frustrated, my hands clenched into fists. I wanted to scream, so I decided to prove it. I would test it. I had a small camera, a GoPro. It was a little black box. I used it for fun things, like riding my bike. I set it up inside the elevator. I pointed it at the doors. I wanted to catch whatever was happening. I taped it to the wall. It was hidden, but it could see everything. I left it there overnight. I went back to my apartment. I felt nervous, but also a little brave. I was scared, yes. But I was also angry. I needed to know. I needed proof. The next morning, I went to get my camera. My hands shook a little. I took it back to my apartment. I hooked it up to my computer. I started to watch the video. My eyes were glued to the screen. Most of the video was just the empty elevator. Nothing happened for a long time. It was just the inside of the elevator. The doors opening and closing for other people. Then, around 3:12 in the morning, it happened. The elevator stopped. It just stopped. There was no button press. I could see the buttons on the screen. None of them were lit up. No one had called the elevator from outside either. It just stopped. On its own. Then the doors opened. They slid apart, just like they had for me. And something came into the elevator. It didn't walk. It didn't step in. It crawled. Its shoulders were low. Its arms and legs moved in a strange way. Like its bones didn't fit right. Like it was broken inside. It moved with jerky motions. It dragged itself forward. Its body seemed to twist. It looked like it hurt to move. The video glitched a little bit when it moved. Just for a second. The screen went fuzzy. It was like the camera couldn't quite see it right. Like it was too much to show. It crawled right in front of the camera. It stopped there. And it stared. Its face was too smooth. Like a doll's face, but wrong. It was pale and flat. Its mouth hung open a little too low. It was a dark, wide hole, no teeth. It didn't have eyes that I could see clearly. Just dark holes where eyes should be. They were empty. Black. Like looking into a deep, dark well. It just stared at the camera. It didn't blink. It didn't move. Just stared. My heart was beating so fast. I felt a scream stuck in my throat. This was not a dream. This was real. This was happening. I was seeing it. Then, it reached out. Its hand, or what looked like a hand, moved toward the camera lens. It was long and thin. Its fingers looked too long. They moved slowly, and the footage cut to black. Just like that. Nothing more. The screen went dark. I sat there, frozen. My mouth was dry. My whole body felt cold. I couldn't breathe right. My chest felt tight. My head was spinning. I couldn't believe what I had seen. The video was gone. The camera was back in my apartment, on my kitchen table. I didn't put it there. I left it in the elevator. It was taped to the wall. How did it get back? And how did it get on my kitchen table? I live alone. No one else had a key. No one else could have done it. My mind raced. This was too much. I was done. I couldn't stay there anymore. Not one more night, not one more minute. I had to leave. Right now. I started packing my bags right away. I threw my clothes into a suitcase. I didn't care how messy it was. I just wanted to leave. I decided I would go to my friend's house. He lived far away. I would sleep on his couch. I would stay there until I found a new place. Any new place. Far away from the Mercer Arms. Far away from the 5th floor. I grabbed my suitcase. It felt heavy in my hand. My heart was still racing. I walked to the elevator. My legs felt shaky. I pushed the button for it to come. I just wanted to be out. I wanted to be safe. I wanted to be anywhere else. When the elevator arrived, I stepped inside. I pulled my suitcase in with me. The doors closed behind me. I let out a shaky breath. Almost there, I thought. I looked at the buttons. My hand reached out to press for the lobby, but then I stopped. There were no buttons, not even for the lobby. The whole panel was blank. All the numbers were gone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. All of them. Gone. There was only one option. One single word lit up. It said, 5. My blood ran cold. It felt like ice in my veins. I didn't press anything. I just stood there, staring at the word, my eyes wide with fear. But the elevator moved anyway. It started to go down, slowly, quietly. It made no sound, just a soft hum. It felt like it was pulling me down. I closed my eyes for a second. I wished it was a dream. I wished I could wake up. I wished I was back in my small town, anywhere but here. But when I opened my eyes, the elevator was still moving, and it was stopping. It came to a gentle stop. The doors made a soft whoosh sound. When the doors opened this time, my jaw dropped. My breath caught. The hallway was exactly like mine. The same rug, the same walls, the same lights. It was like looking at my own floor, but it was not my floor. I knew it. But something was very wrong. All the doors in this hallway had black peepholes. They weren't shiny. They were just dark, empty holes, like eyes that saw nothing, like they were hollow, like they were watching me, but not really seeing. And the apartment numbers, they were scratched out. I couldn't read them. It was like someone had taken a sharp rock and scraped them away. It looked messy and scary. It looked like someone had tried to erase them, but they couldn't quite. I stood there for a moment. My feet felt heavy. I didn't want to step out. I wanted to run back into the elevator, but the doors stayed open. They didn't close. It was like the elevator was telling me, "You have to go out now." So I stepped out. I pulled my suitcase behind me. It felt heavy. My hand was shaking. The air felt thick and cold. It smelled like dust and old secrets. A musty, heavy smell. I looked down the hallway. It stretched out long and dim, and at the very end, I saw it. My apartment door, it was open, just a little bit, like someone had left it ajar for me. My heart hammered in my chest. It was beating so hard. I knew I shouldn't go in. Every part of me screamed to run, to turn back, but I couldn't stop myself. It was like a string was pulling me towards that open door. I walked slowly toward the open door. Each step echoed in the quiet hallway. The sound was loud in the silence. I peeked inside. My hand reached out to push the door wider, and what I saw made my stomach twist. I saw myself sitting on the couch. My back was turned to me. I was watching the TV. The screen was full of static, just white noise, hissing, buzzing static, like a broken TV. But my other self just sat there, not moving, not making a sound, just watching the static, forever. I backed up slowly. My mind screamed. It was a silent scream. I tried to make a sound. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. My throat was tight. My voice was gone. My breath was gone. I couldn't make a noise. I turned around. I wanted to run. I wanted to go back to the elevator, but the hallway behind me was gone. It was just a solid wall. No elevator, no way out, only the door to my apartment, only me, standing in this terrible hallway, and the sound. It was still there, the endless sound of pacing, right above my ceiling, back and forth, forever. It never stopped. It was always there. And I was here now. Always here. Always listening. Always watching. The fog was so thick, it hugged the Oregon coast real tight, like a big wet blanket, you know? I was driving my car, just going along Highway 101. My good friend, he had a cabin up in Washington, and that's where I was headed. The clock on my car's dash, it glowed bright. It said 9:47 at night. My car lights, they cut holes in that mist. They made these tunnels, but the fog, it was still everywhere. It just kept coming. The ocean, it roared softly. I could hear it way over to my left. It was hidden, way down past these tall cliffs. On my right side, big pine trees stood up. They looked like dark giants in the night. Man, I had been driving for so many hours. My shoulders, they felt stiff. I was hunched over the steering wheel, just like a little old man. My music was playing the same songs, again and again. I barely heard them anymore. My phone's map, it kept blinking. The signal was just bad out here. It was trying so hard to work. My phone battery, it was low too. Only 12% left. That made me feel a little bit worried. Then, I saw a sign. It was made of wood. It popped up right in my lights. It said, "Cliffside Bites open late." It was a diner, right there by the road, just sitting there. I made up my mind right then and there. I needed to stop. I really, really needed some hot coffee. My phone, it needed to charge up, and I just needed a moment to breathe, to just stop for a bit. The diner sat way up high. It was on a rocky spot. Its windows, they glowed warm and yellow. They looked pretty against the foggy night, like a little warm box. A single pickup truck was in the dirt lot. It looked old and rusty. A neon sign buzzed softly. It just said open. That was all it said. I parked my car. I grabbed my phone. It was almost dead, just barely hanging on. I stepped out into the air. It smelled salty and cold, right by the ocean. I could hear waves crashing far away. It mixed with the hum of that neon sign. But other than that, everything was quiet. Too quiet, really. It felt a little bit spooky. I pushed the diner door open. A little bell chimed. It made a soft sound. The place smelled like fried onions and old leather chairs, kind of dusty. The floor had black and white squares. It stretched all the way across the room. A music box was in the corner. It played a slow, quiet song, like old-time music. A lady stood behind the counter. She was maybe 50 years old, I guess. Her hair was pulled back tight. Her name tag said Doris. Plain as day. She was wiping a glass with a cloth. She looked up. Her eyes stayed on me a bit too long. Then she nodded to a booth. Like, go on, sit. I slid into the seat. It was made of soft plastic. The cushion made a creaking sound. I plugged my phone into a plug on the wall, hoping it would charge fast. Doris came over to my table. Her pen was ready. It was over a small paper pad. "What'll it be, hun?" she asked me. Her voice was a little rough, but it sounded warm too. I asked for black coffee and a slice of pie. I hoped the sugar would keep me awake. She walked away from my table. I looked around. The diner was empty. Only one other person was there. Just him and me. It was a man in a plaid shirt. He was at the counter. His back was to me. He was hunched over a plate of fries, eating them slow. Something about how he sat felt strange. He was so still, almost too still, like a statue. It made my skin feel funny, like goosebumps. I told myself it was nothing, just the long drive. I was probably just tired. I tried to shake off the feeling, to just forget it. My coffee came. It was steaming hot. The slice of blueberry pie looked good, better than I thought it would for a place like this. It smelled sweet. I took a sip of coffee. I looked at my phone. I was still trying to get directions, but the signal was totally gone now. Nothing at all. I looked up at Doris. She was back behind the counter. She was talking to the man in the plaid shirt. They were whispering, real low. Their voices were low. They sounded like they were in a hurry. I heard a word. It sounded like stranger. My ears perked up. My stomach felt tight. I told myself I was just being silly. I was just tired and worried. But then the music box stopped. Just like that. It just cut off. The diner got super quiet. It was a weird, scary quiet. The man in the plaid shirt moved a little, a tiny bit. He turned his head. I could see the side of his face. It looked sharp and a bit rough, like old wood. Not a friendly face. His eyes moved. They looked at me fast. I pretended not to see. I looked back at my pie, but my heart started beating faster. Thump, thump. I ate my pie fast. I put some money on the table. I stood up to leave. I reached for my phone. It felt heavy in my hand. Doris was suddenly right next to me. Her smile looked tight. It didn't look real. "Leaving so soon?" she asked. Her voice was too sweet. Her voice sounded strange. It was sharp. I just nodded. I mumbled something about needing to drive, about getting to my friend's cabin. She took a step closer. She was blocking the way to the door. "Road's tricky at night," she said. "Fog's thick." She was too close. "Are you sure you don't want to stay a bit?" Her words were polite, but her eyes were cold, like she was looking right through me, right into my head. She was studying me. I forced a smile. I said I would be fine. I tried to walk past her, to just get to the door. The bell chimed when I pushed the door, but it didn't open. I pushed again, harder this time. It was locked. My stomach dropped. My heart jumped. It felt like it hit my ribs. I turned to Doris. The man in the plaid shirt was with her now. He was right there. He held something in his hand. It was a tire iron. He tapped it against his other hand. A slow, scary sound. "Phone," he said. His voice was low. It sounded like rocks rubbing together. "Hand it over." My blood ran cold. My mind started racing. This was not just a diner. It was a trap. A bad, bad trap. I held my phone tight. It was my only way to get help. I backed away. I moved toward the counter. "I don't want trouble," I said. I tried to keep my voice steady, but it shook a little. Doris smirked. Her warm look was gone. "Should have kept driving, hun," she said. Her voice was cold now, like ice. I looked around the room fast. The windows were too high. I couldn't reach them. The only other door was behind the counter. It said, "Staff only." I needed a plan. I had to think of something, fast. "Okay," I said. I put my hands up. I let my phone hang loose, like I was giving it to them. "Just let me grab my charger," I said. I hoped they would believe me. I moved slowly. I went toward the booth. My charger was still plugged in there. The man followed me. His eyes were on me. His tire iron was ready. It was pointed at me. As I bent down, I pulled the cord hard. I yanked the plug out of the wall. Then I swung it. I whipped the cord toward his face. He flinched. He stumbled back a bit. Just enough time. I ran. I bolted for the counter. I jumped over it. I went toward the staff door. My legs were flying. Doris yelled. She lunged at me, but I pushed the door open. I ran into a dark hallway. It smelled like dust. Footsteps sounded behind me. They were loud, like thunder. The hallway led to a storage room. I could see light. It was full of boxes, all messy. There was a small window. It was high up, near the ceiling. My only chance. I climbed onto a crate. My hands were shaking. I pulled the window open. It was hard to do. It stuck a little. The man's angry words echoed. They were closer now. I squeezed through the window. My arm scraped hard on the frame. It stung bad. I dropped onto the gravel outside. The fog swallowed me up. I ran to my car. My hands fumbled with my keys. They just wouldn't work. I heard the diner door slam open. Just as I unlocked my car, I dove inside, fast. My heart was pounding. The engine coughed. It sputtered once. Then it roared to life. I pushed the gas pedal down hard as I could. Gravel flew everywhere. I sped out of the lot. The man's dark shape was in the fog. His tire iron was raised. He looked so mad, but I didn't stop. I drove into the mist. I couldn't see anything. My breath came out in gasps. I was shaking all over. I kept checking my mirrors for car lights, but none showed up. It felt like hours went by, just driving and driving. Then I saw lights. A small fishing town. Its lights cut through the fog. They looked so good, so bright and safe. I pulled into a parking lot. It was by the water. My hands were shaking so bad. I called the police from my car. My voice was shaky. The police officer came. He was kind, but he looked like he didn't quite believe me. Not at first. He looked at me funny. Then I told him about Doris and the man. I told him every detail. His face got serious. He started writing things down. "We've had reports about that diner," he said. His voice was firm. "Shady folks preying on travelers." My stomach twisted. He wrote down everything I said. He promised to look into it. I drove on to my friend's cabin. The rest of the drive was a blur. I jumped at every shadow. My phone was fully charged now, but it was useless. Still, no signal. It felt like a cruel joke. Days later, I saw something online, a local news website. It said the diner had been shut down. Finally, it was linked to a trick, a scam. They were trying to get lone drivers. The relief I felt was small. It didn't last long. That night left marks on me, like scars. Now, I don't like lonely roads. Not one bit. I just can't. I always check the doors. I look for exits. Before I sit down anywhere new. I just have to. It's like a rule now. The fog still comes back to me. Not just the real fog, but the feeling of it. That cold, wet blanket. It wraps around me sometimes. Even when the sun is out, I can still smell the old leather and the fried onions. I hear the quiet jazz music, and then it stops. The sudden silence. It's the worst part. It makes my skin crawl. My heart still beats fast, just thinking about it. That feeling of being trapped, of being watched, like a mouse. I remember Doris's eyes, so cold, like ice, and the man's voice, low and rough, like a growl. I can still feel the gravel under my feet when I ran, and the scrape on my arm. From the window, it was a small cut, but it felt so big then, like a big wound. Because of the fear, it hurt more than it should have. I think about what could have happened. What if I didn't think fast? What if I didn't pull that cord? It makes my stomach clench. I was so close. So close to something really bad. Something I don't even want to think about. I try not to drive at night anymore, especially not on roads like that, where there's nothing around, just darkness, just trees and the ocean, and sometimes a diner. That looks like a safe place, but it's not. It's a trick. I tell myself it's okay now. They got shut down. They can't hurt anyone else, but the fear stays. It lives inside me, like a small, cold knot. It reminds me to be careful, to always be aware, to always look around. When I go into a new place, I look around. Where's the door? Are there other ways out? It's just what I do now. It's just a habit now, a new way of seeing things. Because of that night, that scary, scary night. My friend at the cabin, he asked me what happened. I told him some of it, but not all. It was too much to say. It's hard to talk about, the way my heart felt, like a bird trapped in a cage, flapping hard, trying to get out. He just nodded. He said he understood. He knows the coast can be strange. He's lived there a long time. But he doesn't know the real fear, the kind that changes you, the kind that stays with you, for a long, long time. Like a shadow, always there, just behind you, even in the brightest light. It never really leaves. I used to love long drives, the open road, the feeling of freedom. Now it's different. It's not the same at all. The freedom feels smaller, more careful. I plan my stops now. I look up places ahead of time. I check everything. I make sure there are other people around. I don't like empty places anymore, not at night, never at night. The memory is like a movie, playing in my head, over and over. The smell, the sounds, the cold eyes. I wish I could forget it, just make it go away, but it's part of me now, a part of my story, a dark part. It taught me a lesson, a hard one, that not everything is what it seems, especially when it's dark, and you're alone, on a long, lonely road, with the fog closing in and a low battery. It's a bad mix. That diner, Cliffside Bites. The name still makes me shiver. It sounded so friendly, so normal, but it was a bite, all right. A bite out of my peace, a bite out of my trust. It took something from me. I thought about calling my family, telling them everything, but I didn't want to scare them. They would worry too much. They'd tell me not to travel alone anymore. And I still have to. I have to work. So I keep it mostly to myself. This secret fear, this hidden scar, it's my own burden to carry. But sometimes, when I'm alone, and it's quiet, I can almost hear that bell chime again. The soft sound. That turned into a warning I almost didn't hear. I was so close to missing it. And then the silence. The music stopping. That was the real start of it. The moment I knew something was wrong, deeply wrong, in that little diner, on that foggy, dark night. I remember thinking, just coffee, just a quick stop. How wrong I was. So wrong. It was more than coffee. It was a nightmare. That came to life, in the middle of nowhere. I still have that phone, the one that was almost dead, the one I held onto so tight. It's a reminder, a small, black rectangle, of how close I came to losing everything. I charge it up all the time now. I make sure it's always full, and I carry a power bank, just in case I ever get stuck again on another lonely road. But I hope I never do. I really, really hope not, because I don't know if I could go through that again. The feeling of pure terror, the cold sweat, the shaking hands, the racing heart. It was too much, more than I ever thought I could handle, and I did handle it. I got out, I escaped, but it changed me, forever. So, yeah, that's my story, about a coastal escape, from a diner that wasn't just a diner. It was a place where the fog hid more than just the road. It hid bad things, waiting, and I was lucky, so lucky, to get away.